And then I'm gonna open my chat part too, so I can see what's going on there. And as everybody's launching in here, um, as we get started, maybe when it starts filling up, I might butt in and ask this same question again. But if you guys can do me a favor now while I'm doing my intro in the chat part, if you can either put what country and what school you're in or from, and what school you're either did attend or are attending or plan to attend, that would be great. And we can just kind of tally that in the chat later. That'd be really helpful. Okay, well, we're gonna get started. I know Kirsten is gonna be late. I think a lot of people have classes that they're jumping out of and into this. We really, really appreciate you here. And welcome again to CAT class. So this is our, what is this, seventh installment. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm glad you guys have tagged along with us all this time. I hope you're getting stuff out of it. And here's the rest of the schedule. And as you can see, we got Dr. Crocker and Dr. Ronngren, and I'll be kind of in the background today. And then tomorrow, we're gonna kind of do a bunch of little things. Fractious cat stuff, question and answer mostly, and I'll give you an opportunity in a little bit to send us some questions that you want to hear about tomorrow, either now or throughout the day. And yes, that's going to be me presenting some stuff for a little bit of time, and then Dr. Andy Rourke is going to help us out to do that day tomorrow. I'm really, really excited about that. That was a bit of a pleasant surprise. Thursday, we've got Dr. Woolner and Dr. Tincher. They are pretty recent grads from Auburn, and Kirsten is a good friend, and she is a really, really good speaker, and she'll be going through What I Wish I'd Known. I think that might be a talk that she's given at AVMA or planning on giving at AVMA, so we get a little prequel there. And then Dr. Ashley again on Friday on Cat Derm. That's going to be really, really good. And do we do next week? Don't know yet. We'd love your feedback. I think we can come up with topics and maybe some more guest speakers. Depends on what people's lives are like back then, or at that point, if everybody's tired of Zooms and wants not a lunch break with a Zoom class or something, let us know. Okay. And as you know, for my kind of handle, I like to do something each day to elevate somebody or something. And today it's going to be DVM Divas. As I said before, I'm really not the demographic for this stuff, but I would consider myself an honorary member of this group. I really like what they're doing. I enjoy their podcasts most of the time. It may not hit the sweet spot for students when they're talking about practice and children and managing a household or managing a career and just all the things that go into it. But the most recent one, I think it was the most recent, here on the 24th, was talking about generation gaps, and that does fit into our talk on mentoring today. And so that one would be one I would recommend. So Tuesday, again tomorrow, or excuse me, Wednesday. So strike that. That's not a Tuesday. It's a Wednesday. April 1st, we'll do some fractious cat stuff, exam room hacks, and we do have our special guest, Dr. Andy Rourke, which will be really good. I don't know exactly how long he'll have to spend with us, but it'll be good to have him along. And that was really, really gracious. And that is another reminder to me to say that, you know, anybody that's helping with this is not getting paid, that's for sure. And I've been clear with everybody up front that's guested. So it really, really is a treat. And it just speaks to how much all these people want to give back to the community and to help especially students in this weird time. So that's all I have. Oh, okay, and yeah, and here's just, of course, if you need to know where you can find any of us today, these are our Instagram front pages. And for me, mentorship, as I posted earlier, for me particularly, it ends up being making friends, doing cool stuff, and transferring knowledge. And what does that look like to you? That can be totally different. What should it look like? We'll talk about that a lot today. And Dr. Crocker is doing a really, really amazing thing. I have absolutely no idea how she does all the things she does. It's phenomenal. I think there might be a coffee, or is there booze in there already? No. I think she might be triplets, because that's the only way I can figure that she can get all this done with her family, with her jobs, with her platform on Instagram and all the other places she is. But if you go to her website, Dr. Crocker Pet Vet, and there'll be a link on there on mentorship. You can sign up to be a mentor or to try to get a mentor, and she can probably talk about a little bit more about that today. And that's all I have as far as for intro. If you just joined, put down your school or put down your country. We'd like to know where people are coming from, and I will stop sharing so they can take it over.
All right. Sweet. All right. Can everyone see it?
I can see.
Okay. So I am Dr. Tannetje Crocker, and in case you don't know me, I will just tell you a little bit about me. I graduated from Texas A&M University in 2009. I did an equine internship. I was a horse girl only, was never going to work on small animals. And I did my equine internship. I did ambulatory equine practice for 3 years. Then I transitioned to relief and small animal ER work. And now I'm a full-time small animal general practitioner, along with a ER relief veterinarian here in Texas. So I really do love my job. Obviously, a lot is going on right now that has made my job very different than what it was before. But we can talk a little bit about that at the end. So I threw together just a quick presentation just to kind of keep myself on track with what I want to talk about. I love questions, so I would love if you have questions along the way to drop them in the chat. I usually want my talks to be extremely interactive, but obviously this is a little different setup, so we'll have to see how it goes. But I just want to share with you some of the things that I think have made me successful in practice as an equine practitioner, as a relief vet, as an ER doctor, and as a general practitioner, because I do truly still love being a veterinarian this many years out. And I think there's a couple of things that you can do to set yourself up for success. So we'll get to it. These are my stickers I make. I'm obsessed with black cats. So sometimes if you follow my page, you might be able to get a sticker. Let's see. Uh-oh, it's not advancing. Oh, there we go. Okay, so mentorship in veterinary medicine. It is so important. Like Dr. Marshall said, I think it truly can set you up for having a good first year on practice or not. It can help you with veterinary school decisions. It can help you while you're in school. It was instrumental for me in school in picking the right internship once I graduated, and also finding practices to work for. I have always gotten jobs word of mouth, and I think that through mentors and knowing where my heart was and having people that really cared about me, I was able to make some decisions that really set me up to be in places where I could learn and I could grow, but I also had that support. And I think that's what a good mentor is. A good mentor truly cares about you. They truly want you to be successful. They know kind of what you need, and sometimes you might need a little push, sometimes you might need encouragement, sometimes you just need somebody to cry on their shoulder, but they're just there to encourage you. So I do think it is great to have good surgical skills. It's great to understand all the disease processes, but I really think that having the right people in your corner and the right team is the foundation you need to have a long career that is successful. So types of mentors. This one is probably the one that I see most frequently right now, since we're all at home, but a pocket mentor. So a pocket mentor is somebody that you have connected with online. So it's via social media, Facebook, a group that you're a part of, and you really have never met that person in person. Like Dr. Marshall, I've never met him, but I adore him. I consider him a mentor at this point, because he's really encouraged me in some things and helped show me new ways to connect with students, which I think is really important. So pocket mentors is a huge way that I think we are heading towards with having people connect in different ways and other ways by using online mediums. Now, mentoring where you shadow and you extern. Here in the States, while you're in school or while you're trying to get into school, you can go shadow. And that means you go hang out for a couple of days out of practice. You get to see what things are all about. You're basically following around the doctor and seeing if this is truly something that you want to get into. I think it is vital and important. You should definitely be doing that if you're thinking about going into this as a career. An externship's a little different. An externship, you're actually going to go and hopefully get hands-on experience, where a lot of times it is that students that are in clinical practice and they are trying to get hands-on, and so they're coming in, they're acting like the doctor, they're getting surgical experience, they are working up cases, and they have somebody who's standing there right next to them, encouraging them, talking them through it. So those are mentors that happen during a certain time frame. You're probably only going to go visit with them, you're going to hang out with them, hopefully stay in contact with them for future, but it's maybe not somebody that you're going to be with forever. And I think it's important that so many times we say mentorship and people feel like, I got to find that one mentor. I think there's seasons in your career and seasons of life that you are going to need different people to encourage you along the way at different times. And it's really okay if you connected with somebody and that's fizzled out a little bit and you feel like you need someone else maybe for the next stage of your career. I definitely had a mentor in school who, again, was vital in helping me decide which internship I was going to take, helping me decide classes, and really encouraging me. And I still stay in contact with him, but now that I'm in the small animal world, I definitely have had to transition to other people just to give me a little more guidance. And then the whole social media world has been a whole nother set of mentors and people that I've kind of connected with. So understanding that there's seasons of your career in your life that it will change. I will say again, when you have a partner and eventually have children, that is a whole nother stage of your life that you possibly would need somebody mentoring you who understands the added stressors of those things. So continue to keep your eyes open, continue to network, but realize that there's not going to be just one mentor probably your entire career. And so it's okay if certain relationships work for a little while and then they stop working. You do still have those major mentors. And my major mentors were people that when I was really struggling, I could really sit and talk to them and I could really reach out to them and say, here's what I'm going with, here's what I'm dealing with. And they would look at me and say, you're amazing, you're great, I love you, I care about you, I'm so proud of you, whatever you decide. And they just gave me that validation and that understanding that things aren't always going to go how you want them to go in this career, but there's someone there for you in your corner. And they're there to really help you and they really care about you. So I do hope that all of you find someone like that. And that is my passion and my goal. And I know that's why Dr. Marshall kind of set me up to do this talk, because I think that it is so, so important for your mental health and just for your overall happiness. And I really do think you can have happiness as a veterinarian, but I think you need the right people, again, helping you. So how do you find a mentor? I personally think this is so simple. I think you just reach out and you ask people. And what I'll tell you is veterinarians, we are busy. We are so busy. But there is a lot of veterinarians that truly do want to connect with students or connect with other people. It's just, we're too busy to go look for you. So you have to look for us. You have to reach out. And I always ask this in talks, but I'll have to answer it myself. If you ask, the worst thing someone's going to say is they're going to say no. And guess what? You won't like explode or melt or fall on the ground. Literally, they're going to say, no, I don't have time. I can't do that. And you're going to move on to the next person to ask, but you're really going to be okay if you put yourself out there. I cannot tell you the number of people on social media who reached out to me and said, well, I kind of know this doctor and I kind of think maybe I want to ask them to answer questions for me and just be there for me. But I know it's weird and it's kind of, and every single time that I pushed them and encouraged them to do it, they came back and said, oh my gosh, they were so excited. And they really loved that I reached out and I asked. So you just need to put yourself out there, because I can promise you there's veterinarians that are looking for those opportunities in those relationships, because it feels good. I mean, I'll tell you, it's a little selfish, but I enjoy when I have students come in. This is Yvette, the vet, in the picture with me, and she came and she shadowed and hung out, and I just get so much out of time with students. And so I think that a lot of veterinarians realize that, and so it is good to have students around. So again, put yourself out there and just ask. The other thing is just organic relationships. I truly believe that doors are open and things happen when they're supposed to. I feel like people I've connected with on social media have been right time, right place, but you have to see those opportunities and you have to take those opportunities and you have to grab them, okay? And so you always have to be open, I think, to forming new relationships and to seeking and looking for people with similar passions and desires and the same heart as you. But I can guarantee you that they're out there. And I can attest to that just from the people on here that I've connected with. And finally, networking. So if you are in vet school, I know it's really busy and it's not right now, but normally it's really busy. But there's still so many opportunities to network. When I was in vet school, I was a student worker. That's how I met my main mentor. I cleaned his office. I got research papers for him. I worked in the large animal ICU. When I wasn't in school, I was shadowing and working with vets in the area. So I was always looking for opportunities to connect with other veterinary professionals, going to conferences, going to meetings. I think social media nowadays, especially the Instagram community, is very positive and encouraging and uplifting. And I'll tell you, I do have a fair amount of followers on Instagram. I love the followers that interact with me. I love it when you message me. I love it when you answer questions on the cases that I put up. I love that you're taking the time to really engage. And I will tell you that is seen and that is noted. And so putting yourself out there and doing that will make a difference, whether it's in person or it's online. 100% guarantee. Would you guys agree with me, Dr. Marshall?
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, totally.
So mentorships, again, so important. I had a couple questions. I put up a question block on Instagram and someone asked me a really good one. They said, what do you do if you're looking for a job and you want to make sure that you are going to have a mentor in that job? So what I did is gave you a couple questions you could ask when you're interviewing. Majority of the time you're going to interview in person or perhaps over the phone initially before an on-site. And I do think that it is important to think about these questions. So asking what availability other veterinarians will have when you are working with them, specifically for help in surgeries or cases, is entirely different to have someone who could actually scrub in with you and help you with the surgery versus someone who might take his lunch for part of your surgery time or might be so slammed with appointments that they can't offer any assistance. Asking for a specific time that can be carved out at least once a week to discuss cases. I would recommend that time be off-site. So going and having lunch with somebody, or even at the very end of the day, going to dinner, but whatever works for you, and sitting and saying, I had a couple questions, I was thinking this on this case, or so-and-so said this. I think that talking through how you communicate things, how you give bad news, how you deal with a difficult client really can be a learning experience. And I would tell you the more of that that you get, the more you are going to benefit from it. So asking for very specific times. And I think VMS mentors can be way on this, but they're pretty good about if they hire you, their group of practices, saying very specifics in their contracts about mentorship. And I do not think it is wrong to ask for those things. I also think asking for additional training for communication, leadership, surgery, all those things are good. And a good mentor in practice is going to want you to get better. They're going to want you to grow your skill set. They're going to support you if you say, I'm interested in acupuncture, I'm interested in being better at this. So these are very specific questions that I would put out to somebody who you're thinking about going into practice with and really gauge whether they're serious about mentoring a new grad. I think new grads can be amazing, but there is so much that you're still gonna have to learn on the job, and having that support and having that group of people to really reach out to and ask any question you want at any time is vital.
I think we have a couple quick questions / comments. Number one, I know Dr. Marshall has one.
Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't say anything not nice about me because I was his first new grad associate. But also I think Dan's got a couple comments too. So I would love to hear what both of you have to say really quick if you don't mind, Dr. Crocker.
Yeah, let me mute. Hold on.
I'll go first because I'm unmuted. I think as a man in a women's world, need to think hard about the offsite meetings as far as lunch and dinner to go over that kind of stuff, just appropriateness, and certainly maybe in due time or in group settings, those would go over well. But just got to be careful out there and make sure that that nothing is even appearing that there is a possibility of improperness. And I'd love to hear Dan's thoughts on writing something into a contract and how that works. Because I've heard a lot of new grads and seniors talk about what that looks like in a contract, and it's just really, really hard for me in day-to-day practice to see how that can actually play out and be enforced.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, yeah, in terms of the structure, again, I'm Dan Phillips, and I'm a veterinarian in the Chicago area. In terms of the efforts that we make in regards to trying to incorporate a structure of mentorship into our routines with our new graduates as well as with their contracts, we work very diligently. We have the advantage, I think, compared to maybe some other smaller practices where the majority of our practices are a little bit larger. So that gives us a little bit of an advantage in terms of making that dedicated time that Dr. Crocker was mentioning a possibility. So we work really hard with whichever practice that new graduate is going to be coming in at is going to be at that specific practice 100% of the time, and probably overlapping in terms of their schedule with the person who is going to be their dedicated senior mentor at least 80% of their schedule. So we are able to do that. So that makes a huge benefit. And then in terms of incorporating things into the contract itself, we basically assign not only the responsibility of the mentor, but the mentee a list of goals that we want them to both feel responsible to work through together and to set time apart together, again, outside of the usual workday, whether that's going to lunch, going to get coffee, whatever the deal is, to go through those 3, 6, 9, and 12-month goals for the first year that new clinician is in our organization. And all of those goals for the first 3 months are pretty much universal. And then each one, as we move through that time frame afterwards, is tailored to the specific needs, wants, and desires of that new clinician, as well as to focus on not only their strengths and what they're good at, but then maybe some of the areas where we really need to focus more as well. And in terms of building that into the contract, again, we consider that part of the responsibility for both the mentee and the mentor to make sure that they're getting that dedicated time, and we facilitate and allow that extra time for that senior clinician to do that, i.e. if we're taking a little bit of time out of their week to do those things, we're going to compensate them for doing that in terms of, maybe I don't want to do this because that's a loss of production for me. Instead, we're going to compensate them for that time to, okay, maybe one day out of the month, you need to be in surgery with your mentee for the first few months, something along those lines. And so we do work pretty diligently to make a formal agreement, not necessarily within the actual employment contract, but more of a contract between the mentor and the mentee of what are the responsibilities for each of those individuals. And then at that 3, 6, 9, and 12-month interval, we sit down with the mentor, the mentee, and one of the senior partners in our organization to review what did we achieve? Were we able to achieve all these goals? What went well? What didn't go well? How do we need to modify these goals going forward for the next few months?
And I like the compensating, the mentor outside of it. I would say a majority of small practices, the boss is going to be the mentor, so perhaps not on production. But I do think the big thing is you need, when you're having these discussions with a potential future boss, you need to get the sense that they understand that it is going to take a little more time and maybe take slowing down a little bit to feed into you and support you during those first couple of months as a new grad, and that they are willing to do that, and they aren't going to just expect you to jump in and go off by yourself and just manage everything, that they are going to be there, be available, and realize that they are going to have to make a little bit of a change in how they function and how they do things to give you the support you need. And I think everyone needs a different level of support. I would say me specifically, I don't want a lot of hand-holding. I want to figure out things as best I can, but I want to know you're there. Like, I want to know that I can, call out to you if I need you. And so I agree, it doesn't have to be like a formal in the contract, or maybe there is some sort of, like you said, mentorship standards that you're trying to hit. And practice, things happen. So things are not always going to be specifically getting done each week like you want them to be, but it is more getting the sense and the understanding that, yes, it is important to them as it is important to you. And I think asking some of these questions kind of susses that out a little bit.
And I think it's totally legit to ask how it's worked out from others that are there, previous new grads, other associates, because I think you're going to get a better sense of that than you would from an HR director or something that's recruiting you for that practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think the other thing too is that, like, what Dr. Crocker was saying is that everybody needs something a little different. And I think it's definitely a surprise when you get into practice. And I think one thing that we haven't like touched on yet, I know this can be a little bit of a kind of topic of discussion that makes people a little bit crotchety or uncomfortable, is that not everyone's meant to be a mentor. And I think that a lot of people assume that just because you have the letters DVM after your name, it means that you're going to be a good mentor. And I think that is a very big surprise for people when they get out into practice, into the real world. And just because we have the letters DVM after our name does not mean that we're a good teacher. It does not mean that we are in the right position to provide that for people. And so I think that making sure that you're thinking about what you need and communicating that sooner rather than later makes a huge difference. I needed a lot of hand-holding. You can ask Dr. Marshall, and it wasn't because I didn't know what I was doing. It was because I had zero confidence. So I would come back into the office and I would say, what do I do about blah, blah, blah? And he would say, well, what do you want to do? And I would tell him, and he would just stand there and just look at me. And he'd be like, so I'm not really sure what the question is here. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll see you later. So having that relationship early on is a very, very big development that I think takes time. So really making sure that you think about that.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely need someone at the practice who is going to help you, especially with, I think, just communication and things like that initially, because those to me are harder things to deal with, other than, I mean, you can go look up lab work results and diagnostics and differentials and rule outs, but really someone there to talk to you about other things. And that person doesn't have to be maybe at your practice if you've developed relationships with other veterinarians and other people, but there needs to probably be at least one person at the practice, whether it's a head technician or an office manager or somebody that just is going to be like your person. You just need a person. Because I do think that there's going to be days that you're like, why am I here? What am I doing? And then there's going to be days you want to celebrate really, really cool, great things, and you need someone for that too. So are y'all good on that? Do you want me to?
Keep cranking.
All right. So I had a lot of questions about externships. And again, externships are usually 3rd, 4th year students, depending on what school you go to. I think externships are vital. I think that, again, it needs to be very hands-on. If, though, you are going into looking to do internships at certain places, you have to do externships at some of those places, and you probably won't get as much hands-on. But if you specifically are looking to go into private practice, I would go to practices that you might want to work at, and I would go to practices that let you do a lot. So this is me with Paige Underwood, who was our extern recently doing surgery. We tried to let her do as much as she could. So I would say right now, with everything going on, I would be networking like crazy for the possibility of externships in the future. Because a lot of places are shut down and not taking externs, but I already have people that right now are booking us for like 2021, saying, okay, we're going to be wanting to come extern with you. Can I get on the schedule? And so I think places that will offer you a lot of hands-on, you can already be reaching out to them and trying to set something up. I think that's really important. I would be asking them how much you actually get to do and how much hands-on you get to do, specifically how many surgeries, things like that, because you are preparing to become a doctor. And that is one of the things you need to get out of an externship, is feeling more comfortable with some of those basic skills. So network is really important. I would also contact your school and see what they are planning on doing. I've heard lots of different things about externships and clinical rotations. And so staying in contact with them. I know things are so up in the air. Normally I'd be able to give you more specifics, but basically I've heard 20 different things from 20 different schools on their plans. So that's where we're at currently. Our externships in GP, again, I had people ask me about those and about the ER. general practice, basically you're going to come into my practice and you're going to be a doctor. So I'm going to have cases that I assign to you, especially we work with our local shelter. You're going to do all my shelter pets. You're going to do all my spays and neuters. I'm going to be available to walk you through any of those, to scrub into surgery with you. I'm going to take you to lunch a couple of times so you can pick my brain about other things. Definitely going to talk to you about why we practice the way we practice, why we do what we do, revenue streams, inventory, all those things. And I think all those things are questions you should be asking when you're doing externships, not just trying to, again, grow your skills, but looking at how is the practice run, what is the culture, how do the people communicate with each other, what do they do that you really like, what do they do that you really don't like, because those are the opportunities you have. I will tell you from doing relief, there is going to be 20 different ways of doing something within a 5-mile radius, and you'll be shocked and surprised how different one culture will be from another, especially if you've always worked as a technician at one type of practice and you get out there, you might see there's a whole another type of practice. So definitely take the opportunity to really look at the culture and the leadership and see what is working. In the ER that I work at, you are also going to come in and you're going to shadow the doctor. You're not going to get really hands-on or surgical experience. It is going to be a lot more watching, learning communication, and seeing how we handle emergencies, but less hands-on in the ER setting, mainly because of time and how critical they are. And I don't have a relationship with the clients the majority of the time. And so it's a little difficult to say, we're going to let a student do this versus your general practice. Any questions about externships at all?
I don't see any major questions popping up about externships. We did have a question that kind of plays a little bit into everything so far. One person did ask, are there tips for how to spot DVMs who might be good mentors and those who weren't, or those who wouldn't be? Is it a matter of developing relationships with multiple people and casting out a wide net to try different things? So I think in general, the question is, how do you find somebody that you think will be a good mentor?
I like this question. Okay, so yes, I do think there's very specifics. One, if you have somebody who's very engaged online or with students, obviously they are the type of person that likes to mentor or likes to reach out and interact with students. And I think you can not spot those people pretty easily. The other thing is that, I don't know, I don't want to like say anything that is offensive. Dr. Marshall doesn't like it when I say this, but I think it's like dating a little bit, where you need somebody who has a personality that works with you. And so you're going to like date a lot of people until you find the person and the personality that works. And he doesn't like me using the dating word. He already told me that, but he knows what I mean. Yeah. What I mean is there's got to be a chemistry. There's got to be a similar way of thinking. Again, I'm the type of person, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I want you to tell me I can do it. And some people need a little more direction. Some people need a little softer tone. Some people need you to be a little more forceful. So I think a mentor-mentee relationship is a lot of give and take. And so it's a lot of personality. So the idea of casting a wide net and seeing kind of what works for you, I think is great and is key. I would attend as many talks as you can at your school where people come in and meet. I think vets that are going in and talking at schools obviously want to connect with students. I think, again, Dan and VMS Mentors, they have a great group of doctors who really like to feed into students. Reaching out locally. My whole mentorship thing is I'm collecting doctors, and I have over 300, and it's by location. So I'm then trying to match you with 3 or 4 people in your location, and then you're going to reach out to them and you're going to see what personalities click. Okay, so I like the idea of casting a wide net. I think there's a lot of ways to do that. Right now it's mainly going to be online, but does that answer the question? Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. It's just I think that they're just saying, I think that I already have that general impression, but it's helpful to hear it reiterated in a different ways. And also just, I think, thinking about different ways to find people. I think my generation is definitely the generation that likes to use the internet for things. But now that that's not just stuck in a millennial way, you've got the generation behind me, and even like, I feel like even the research that has been shown, like Eric Garcia was showing the percentage of like boomers who want to use the internet to do stuff. So it's a great way that I think we often forget. I definitely agree, like engagement to me, number one, after we're like talking about not using words like dating, engagement, meaning like being present and being available in the social media world, I think is huge right now. But even before that, I mean, one of the big things with Dr. Marshall is that I started working for Dr. Marshall when I was a student. So it's not like he just hired me as a doctor when I graduated. I was looking for a summer job so that I would not be afraid of cats. And the first time he told me to go get an angry cat out of a kennel, I was like, nah, playa, I'm not touching that. You go get it. I'll be over here. It's fine. And now at my practice in San Diego, they call me the cat whisperer. Like if there's an angry cat in a kennel, I'm like, step aside, folks. It's okay. So it's just like, I immediately felt like family. And that was what I needed. And it's different for everyone, but I could immediately tell that this man was going to treat me with the respect and the support that I needed. I instantly felt like I was part of a family. And that I think is very person dependent, but at least for me, like that was the kind of support that I needed. So it is kind of like dating in a way that you kind of have to test the personalities, but I think that it is something that you do have to kind of feel a little bit like, okay, this is a mutual relationship of respect and support versus like, you're not just like take. It has to be coming from both sides. Yeah. So.
No, I think that's true. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, Tannetje, if I do like the term organic that you used before, because I really do think that these things just happen most of the time. And for me, it really, really is hard to have a formula that works. And I've seen a lot of systems put in place over the years, because I've been doing this a lot longer, that it's hard to get set up for these types of things. But ways that I think work to when you talked about the network, conferences are amazing, because you're going to know some people there, they're going to know some people, they're going to make a direct introduction at that time. And so there's some legitimacy, there's some sort of a little bit almost known commodity there in that situation. So I would totally recommend for students and new grads, go to a conference when we can again, that's either local or national. And you're just thinking, I've been taking classes all this time, I've been doing all this schoolwork, I don't want to sit and learn another stuff about another PowerPoint, another lecture about another system. But I get so much more out of conferences outside of the lecture halls than I do inside. And it's all about the people. And so I'm going to give a big shout out to that as well. And you can meet face to face hopefully soon.
Yes. Yeah, we're hoping AVMA happens because we want to meet face to face. Yes. I will say two things. One, this is a little bit on you students though. I think it has to be organic, but again, veterinarians are busy, they're working. I will go speak, I will go to job fairs, and I'll have so many students come up and introduce themselves and talk about stuff and say, I want to come extern, I want to come shadow. I said, great, just send me an email. Like send me an email so we can set something up. Never get an email. Okay. I'm here. I want it, but you do have to reach out and you have to do it. So I'm going to put a little bit on you students. I know it's hard. I know sometimes we don't want to put ourselves out there, but really you have to keep putting yourself out there to make those connections. When you especially are looking for what I call unicorn practices, so practices that are great practices, but don't necessarily hire frequently because they have long staff retention, and when they hire, they're really, really selective. I think you're going to find those practices by word of mouth or by networking. You're not going to be finding them in job ads. And so I'm huge on networking. I think it's really, really important. And it starts as a student 100%, and it will benefit you your entire career if you do it right. Okay. I could do a whole talk on networking, but we're not going to do that right now. So this is another thing that a lot of people were interested in, because I do work a full-time job, but then if you look on the right, this is with my side hustle job. So I do ER relief, and I've done it for 6 years. I kind of fell into it when I was doing relief. I came from equine background where, you go out in a truck by yourself and you just jump in and handle things. I think I missed that a little bit. So the local ER had some shifts available, and now I work 3 to 4 days a month there on my Sundays or Thursdays off. Actually, right now, I've been helping them out more, and if my practice decreases my days here, I will work more over there. So a lot of people had questions about ER relief. They wanted to know about kind of why I did it. So put together a little thing. The advantages of doing ER relief work. One is the money. Okay. So if you are a newer grad and you would to pay off student loans and you're okay working a little extra, I do think financially it can be a really good decision. I also think that the right ERs, I have some ERs in the area that are offering me $1,000 a shift, but I like the one I'm at and I stay at the one I'm at. So the money could be even more than this depending on how much you wanted to work. Experience with emergencies. So I work in general practice, but man, you have a respiratory distress animal come in, they need a chest tap, I'm your girl. They call Crocker. So I think getting comfortable with those, getting comfortable with imaging, fast scans, things that you do in emergency over and over are really, really huge and make you a better general practitioner. I work with specialists, and I think having an internal medicine specialist I can go watch an ultrasound from or ask them about a DKA, surgeons right there, exotic specialists, dental specialists, all those people in the building with me. It literally is like CE every time I work, and I love it. And I put myself out there still after 11 years in practice. I still have questions, and I put myself out there and I learn something new every single shift. And they all know me too. So when I refer my clients over from the general practice, they know who I am, they know my expectations, they communicate really well with me, and I am able to tell my clients what to expect when they go in. And again, I think that's big. And I get referrals back from them. So people go into the ER and they say, we just moved here, we don't have a regular vet yet. They'll say, well, hey, you should go see Dr. Crocker at Northwest. We really like her, she works here too, we trust her. And I would say I probably get 4 new clients a week from the ER. And these are clients that went to the ER because they care about their pets and they want their pets to be healthy. And those are the kind of clients I want. So these are all the reasons why I do ER relief. I think it can be extremely beneficial for all these reasons. A lot of people wanted to know, could you do ER relief as a new grad? And I will tell you, it is dependent on the ER. I don't ever work by myself. I'm always with other doctors on shift. I do some of the surgeries, not all the emergency surgeries. I do know that they have hired new grads right out of school at this ER, but we offer a lot of support for new grads. So I think if you have the right ER in the right situation, yes, you can absolutely do ER relief. I think that you cannot go somewhere where you're going to be the only doctor on shift every night with 30 cases coming in the door and you can't think. I think you'll get burnt out and you won't really learn anything because you'll be in such stressed out survival mode. But I 100% think a new grad can do ER relief if you have the right personality and go get an attitude. So that is my ER relief slide. Any questions about that pop up?
As of now, no.
Okay.
I thought I was having a dance party to your preaching.
I know, I'm
so good. You're doing great. No questions popping up. I'm just having a dance party with myself because I'm so excited about this.
straight shooter, just in case you hadn't noted that yet. So, okay, so work-life balance. I don't believe in work-life balance. I work a lot, but I love what I do. And I think that you can work a lot, love what you do. I don't think life is ever going to be 50-50, but the balance comes in finding what fuels you, what fills you up, what makes you feel good, what encourages you. It may be in veterinary medicine, which I have been lucky enough to do different things in my career that continue to challenge me and just excite me. And I have a really great support network at home that allows me to do what I do, and locally with family that allows me to do all the things that I do. But I do not think balance means working less. I think it means doing the things you like. Now, if I worked in a practice where I didn't have good support, where I worked crazy hours, where I never got to see my family, where I couldn't take off when I wanted to for a sick kid, I would not feel balanced, okay? But I have the right work home and I have the right support at home to make it work. So it means doing what you love at work and outside of work. And that is balance to me. Other people may feel differently, but that's what I think about work-life balance. A lot of people wanted to know how I'm balancing everything right now because I do have 2 young kids at home, a husband, and I'm working a lot. This is my 13th day in a row to work right now because the ER has really been slammed and I've been filling in for them. And I will tell you, I have always had a partner who has never questioned anything I wanted to do and has only supported and encouraged me. and I have family that lives locally that helps me out dramatically. So I do not do any of this by myself. I could not do it by myself. But that is the only way I'm surviving right now. And I have still had moments where I've had to drink a little extra wine and have a good cry, because we are in a weird situation right now, and it's okay to feel stressed. I'm not a stressed, anxious person. I've still had some sleepless nights, and we're all right there with each other. But I think connecting, encouraging one another, and just saying we're in it together, we're gonna get through it, is probably one of the most important things right now, even though I have no clue what 24 hours from now is going to look like in Texas, because it looks different than it looked 24 hours before. So being uncertain and anxious and stressed, I think, is unfortunately normal right now. And I think it's okay to recognize those feelings and push through and continue to live life, because that's all we can do. That's my PSA for that right now. Sorry.
Can I add a word into that, Tannetje?
Yes.
I totally agree, and I love hearing that people are exposing the lie of balance, because it's just another way for people to feel like they're not doing something right, because it's not going to exist and you're not going to have it. And as we heard Lo Curtis yesterday on Neuro, she had a podcast recently that was talking about seasons, and certainly you're going to go through stuff at different times, and if you can get through it, there's light on the end of the at the end of the tunnel. But a word that I've thrown out for this, as opposed to balance, for some people I think it connects well with, is symbiosis, which is a really weird word, but to me, what you were talking about, you have to like what you do all around. For me, it's that each aspect of your life makes the other better, so better together. And so, like you said, if everything's going well at home, during your home time, you're talking about work stuff, and that's okay, and everything gets along with that. But you need your work too to be able to have a good home life, to make the money, to get away from the home, get away from kids, all that kind of stuff. So it all is interconnected, and it's not separate. And I think the world is telling us that we need to have a work life and we need to have a home life. But in reality, especially with cell phones and everything that we're connected so much, it just is not going to happen. So don't expect it to. You have to set your own boundaries and your own borders for what you will accept and what you won't. But if you think of it in the way of symbiosis, then I think you'll think, okay, are these things making everything work better in my life or not? And then you get rid of stuff that's not working. That's my little soapbox.
I
like
love that. I'm actually going to steal it for all my talks. So
Yes.
I'll give you credit, but no. I do think that's great. And the boundaries part is huge. That's probably one of the biggest parts of my, hi, she's cute. That's probably one of the biggest parts of my talk with vet students, is talking about boundaries. And I have very, very hard boundaries with people, and I have no problem saying no to things. But I do say yes to a lot of stuff because I really like a lot of what I do. So current reality in Texas, at my general practice, we are doing curbside only drop off, no clients in the building. We have gone from 3 to 2 doctors, and we are FaceTiming during appointments with people. I think seeing people face to face, or seeing us, has really helped with compliance with recommendations and different things. We're not doing any routine surgeries. We are doing emergency type procedures and essential services, and we are busy. ER is curbside only. It is more stressful. There's more financial constraints for people. There's more euthanasias. A lot of emotions with people sending respiratory distress or bleeding animals into the building and not being able to go. And it has become next level. I really don't love it as much as I loved it before, I'll be honest, because I pride myself on communication with people, and that is extremely hard to do over the phone in a emergent situation, to communicate effectively. So it's really pushed me and stretched a lot of our staff. So I'm FaceTiming with clients at the ER when possible, and I do think that has helped with making tough decisions, but that is what I'm doing in my practices. My mom life, my husband is a stay-at-home dad, which we used to joke about, and now he wonders why we had the crazy thought that he should be a stay-at-home dad. So y'all just keep that in mind. And he's homeschooling one kid, and the other kid is 3 and running around the house pretty much injuring himself every single day. So I don't know what's going on there. But I am having all the feelings like all of you, because if I'm not at home, I feel like a bad mom. And I see all my other friends at home being these fun homeschool moms. And if I'm not at work taking care of patients and clients, then I feel like a bad veterinarian. So I think I'm telling you this and being vulnerable because I'm sure that students are struggling with the same thing about not being at school, or maybe not like learning to the extent they want to, and becoming, you know, the veterinarian that they envisioned. And I think that having everything slow down for them has to be really frustrating. And then my big thing is that right now, I don't think anyone is completely satisfied with the situation they're in. And I think we're making the best of it. And that is okay. And that is enough right now. And that is all you really, really need to be doing, is, you know, reaching out if you need help and connecting in the ways that you can. And I'm so thankful that all of you came on here to listen to me rant and ramble and preach to you. I do have strong opinions about stuff, but it is because I'm passionate and I love what I do. So that is it for me. Questions, here's my contact info. And really, when I say contact me and reach out, I mean contact me and reach out. Okay?
Absolutely. I've got a couple questions for you. I was saving some of them till the end because I didn't want to interrupt you, because you were like, you were going, and I was like,
on a roll. Sorry.
That's okay. I am the same way. So, so a couple questions that I saw pop up. The first one came from Dan, and he was saying, kind of mentioning or commenting on benefits for mentors, not just benefits for mentees. So I don't know, Dan, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more, as far as your question goes.
Sure. Yeah. The main point that I was going to make in regards to the benefits for mentors, and especially in relation to externships as well, is that in our setting, in our practice, we love mentoring, and we put a pride and a significant portion of our time towards that. But we also use our externship program as part of our recruiting process as well. So we see that as a 2, 3, 4 week interview that we can do with that mentee, from that, you know, that 3rd or 4th year student to say, hey, you know, how is this person interacting not only with us, how are they interacting with our staff and our clients? Is this someone that in a year or two we could consider bringing on board into our organization? And so you can learn a lot about a practice when you're there for a more extended period of time, 2 or 3 weeks with that externship, that formal externship. And then we have the opportunity to learn a lot about you as well. And so that's really something that goes beyond what you can learn in a 2 or 3 hour sit down interview of some type, or shadowing around for the day. And at this point, we use the vast majority of our new hires that come on board are individuals that have externed with us that we really enjoyed, and hopefully had a positive experience with us as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a lot of students, or a lot of veterinarians that'll be like, I can't hire anybody, or I can't. And I'm like, okay, well, when's the last job fair you went to? When's the last time you engaged online with students? When's the last time you went to your local vet school and you spoke? Like, I do think hiring really great vet students is a 2-3 year process, like Dan said, of making relationships and connections and spending time with them and being there for them. And I think you're going to get the best hires out of that. And I think you students should really take the opportunity to do those things. When I go speak somewhere, I always try to do a little meet and greet before or after. And that's because I really want to get to know you. But also, we're going to be looking to hire in a year or 2. So I want to find the best person for my practice. And so it's definitely mutually beneficial. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, our outstanding externs that really stick out for us and make a huge impression on them, we always offer them during the last week of that externship, would you like to do a formal interview with us? And we will often give them a job offer at that time.
For me, the pros are mostly, it just kind of, it keeps me young and it keeps me engaged in what's coming up. And I learn as much, probably more, from each shadow or each extern or student that I meet that comes through the practice for a short period of time or a long period of time. I'm sure I learn more from them than they learn from me.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point too, is I think the collaboration that comes from it is really beneficial. I think one of the comments that I was going to make is when I first started working with Dr. Marshall, one of the points that I kind of actually used to my advantage was I had a lot of clients make comments on my age. And I know we've all been there, and I still am not even 30 yet, and I still get clients that comment on my age, and I've been doing this for 5 years. And the benefit that I could throw to them when I first started, I said, Dr. Marshall's been doing this for 30 years, but I know all the most updated like medical and surgical recommendations. So together we're going to take great care of your pet. And so I think that that kind of like me getting experience from him, but him getting kind of the like excited, young, I just got out of school and I know all the cool new stuff was great for our patients. Not only was it good for us, but I mean, it made our medicine better. And I think clients really appreciated that. So I think that's important to talk about for sure.
I agree. And that's also why students should feel like they're bringing some value to the situation into a mentorship relationship, and they shouldn't feel like they are just asking and taking, because I don't think they realize how much we can get out of it too. So they should kind of ask and engage with confidence, I think, because of that.
Yeah, totally. You had another question, Tannetje, about do you think that there was a difference between your work-life balance? Did you have a harder time when you were doing large animal versus small animal?
So when, I will be honest, when I was doing large animal, equine ambulatory by myself in the truck, 50% on call with no kids and a supportive husband, I loved my life. Like literally worked 60-hour weeks, did not care, loved it, loved being outside, could spend all day looking at x-rays and talking to clients and eating dinner with them at the end of the day. And my husband was supportive and he'd go with me on emergencies afterwards. We had Thanksgiving dinner at Dairy Queen. I mean, that was the season we were in. And then we had our first child, and the 50% on call turned into me really like getting an ulcer and stressing out every time the phone rang, because my husband was traveling and I was doing stay-at-home mom basically, and really, really, really stressed out. So I really, really loved my equine job. I'm a horse person at heart still. And if I could be around horses all day, it literally fills my cup. But then my priorities shifted and changed. And so I had to make a change. And I will tell you, it took me a good 2 years to feel like I didn't fail based on the fact that I left equine medicine. And that I did what was right for me and my family. But I felt like a failure initially when I made the change, because I loved it that much. But definitely the balance was different after kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think I would say that the answer is also, I as of last June kind of had my like season change and freak out where I was like, I'm so burnt out that I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And so my rescue was I actually went to teaching part-time. So I now teach at a vet tech program part of the week, and I practice 2 days a week. And I think the answer that I always tell my students that I hate is it depends, because I like knowing the answer and I like being right, which I think a lot of us do. So the answer, I think really goes with what you're saying, Tannetje, is that it really depends. I
can't believe I just heard you say that.
Yeah, it depends. And I hate that. It depends, and I think it depends on a little bit of where you are and what you're doing. So like you were saying, the season of life that you were in, you loved it when you didn't have kids and you were just living that equine life. I grew up in the clinic. My mom's a vet. My dad's a pharmacist. My fiance is an equine surgeon. His dad's a physician. His mom's a pharmacist, and his sister's a physician. So I saw somebody tell me that like their parents are vets and they're and techs and family members. And so you're always in that kind of veterinary brain. And I can relate to that a lot, because the conversations at our house are always about medicine, always about work. And I will say that even though that my fiance is an equine surgeon, he makes it so that when he's not at work, he's doing something else. So, and he spends a lot of time there. He's one of 2 surgeons, so he's 50% on call too. And so I think it depends. It depends on what you make it and what you want, because I think it's really easy to get sucked in. But I would say that Andrew's better at work-life balance, and he works more than I do and is on call. I work 4 days a week and I don't have any on call. And I can never stop thinking about work. So I think it really depends on what
it does. It does. And I speak on this a lot too, that the worst thing you can do as a veterinarian is feel stuck, because there are so many practices out there and there's so many opportunities and there's so many things not even in practice but in industry, and I mean even online now. There is other ways to use your degree to make a difference and to be fulfilled. So when I have vets saying they hate what they do, I ask them why. I ask them why they don't make a change. Why don't you leave that practice where the clients are abusive and take advantage of you, or the boss is not supportive? Because there's practices out there where clients are not abusive and bosses are supportive and they are looking for veterinarians. So I do, again, preach on career course correction, and that if your career, something has changed or it's not working for you anymore, you have to make a change. You have to, and you have to do it for your own sanity. But there is so many opportunities out there and so many things to do that there's really no reason why you should be miserable in your job, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of options and students need to realize that.
I agree with that completely. That's one thing I respect and see so much more in millennials and younger people than my generation, because I've worked in 2 clinics since 1979. So, and so my generation, we get with something, we stick with it, and we just grind it out. And that's not the right way to go. And so, as Dr. Crocker has said, if something's not going well, there's a lot of other opportunity out there, either in different careers or in different, just in different clinics. The associate I hired last year, she's been out 6 years when I hired her, and I'm her 5th boss. And that was a big red flag on resumes, but I got to know her, I met her, and we're perfect for each other. She just had, nothing was a fit before. And so sometimes it takes a while, and that's okay. As long as you can explain that, if you're moving around and moving on from one place to another, it's not a red flag anymore, that's for sure.
Do we have any more questions? I've kind of been grabbing them as they've been coming up. I know that we don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but I know that I think I grabbed them all.
And if not, you can always like DM me or email me or do the things. I will tell you, if you have like a long question, email's better because things get lost on Instagram messages. Sometimes it's hard to go back to stuff on there. But I appreciate y'all letting me come on. And if you continue CAT class, I have so many other things that I can speak on. So
okay, we'll talk about that. And we should get off. It looks like the person who's letting us use their account needs to get onto another meeting. Okay. So I'm going to hit stop record, and then she can